And joining us now, the Chief Baseball Officer of the Boston Red Sox, Craig Breslow. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning.
When it comes to things that you were looking forward to doing today, where does this fall on the list?
It's right after going to the dentist and catching up on laundry, I think.
Well, it seems like from the outside perspective, the low of the season yesterday, and we are only at the end of May. As you look at it from your position, how are you feeling about this team right now?
Yeah, there's no doubt we're not where we want to be. We're not where we expected to be. So that's certainly frustrating. But frustration isn't going to help us win games. We've got to figure out how to play better. And I think that's in all facets of the game. We've been close. We've had some kind of gut-wrenching losses, but ultimately we've also not been playing the brand of baseball that I think we expected. We're making mistakes on the base paths. We're not playing the defense that we thought we would. We're not making big pitches when the game is on the line or coming up with the big hits.
When it comes to the pitches, Craig, the bullpen continues to struggle. How do you fix that?
Yeah, I think we've seen the bullpen more active over the last week or so in terms of getting in the game and usage. Getting starters out maybe a little bit earlier and trying to attack opposing lineups that way. I think there's obviously personnel options that you can think about, but beyond that, as it relates to the guys that are on the team, I think you think about two things. Number one is how you create the best matchups that you can. So making sure that we're bringing in the right guys at the right time, and I think recently we have seen that we are doing that pretty well. And then also making sure that we're throwing the right pitches and executing them. And so, I think there's been a shift toward getting back to making sure our relievers are throwing their best pitches when the game is on the line, and really leveraging our strengths.
Craig, I've heard a lot from you, from Alex, from some players about a sense of urgency, but I haven't seen one. And I think I speak for a lot of people in not understanding why we are sitting here on May 29th after 5 straight losses and Roman Anthony is crushing the ball in Worcester. What's the timeline on his potential call-up, and why have you been hesitant to do that?
Yeah, so I think it's a fair question, especially when you look at Roman's performance, in the upper levels of the minor leagues, and notably in AAA, to start this season. And Roman can be a really, really good player, which we think he is, and still have some development opportunities that he's working through, whether that's getting comfortable in left field. He missed a little bit of time with an injury to his throwing shoulder, working on some things at the plate, despite the fact that the stat lines are going to scream otherwise. But I think we also need to be mindful of the environment that Roman would be coming into and the pressure that we could potentially be putting on a 21-year-old, in the midst of a losing streak to come up and save the team. So Roman's time is coming. I don't think there's any question about that. And we've got to figure out, kind of what is best for the organization, what is best for him.
But I would just say, Craig, Christian Campbell wasn't in a good position. He's playing second base. He had an awful throw yesterday that cost you the game, but he's here because you need him. He's good. He has talent that the team lacks. I'm just speaking for myself. If Roman Anthony comes up and goes 2 for 20, I don't think people are going to be saying he sucks, get rid of him. I think at some point you have to weigh the impact positively that he would bring to the club against whatever negative component to his ability to understand ups and downs and whatever his place on the roster would be. That I don't think people would be sitting here saying Roman Anthony's why we suck.
I think that's fair. I think that's true. But at the same time, my job and the job of the organization is to try to put him into a situation where that the 2 for 20 isn't the outcome. And like I said, he's getting close, and every time there's a development opportunity in front of him, he kind of checks that box. And we want to make sure when he comes up, not only is he ready, but there's runway for him to play. You don't want to bring up a 21-year-old and have him play sporadically. He needs to be in the lineup every day. And trying to kind of put all of those pieces together is what we think about every single day.
Craig, would it be a good time, and I don't know how you guys necessarily think in baseball, but in football, when your team's not doing well, isn't it really a good time to get the young guys out there and give them that opportunity? So if they do make mistakes and if they do struggle, they're doing it on a team that's really not going anywhere, and maybe makes it a little bit easier versus struggling on a really good team and maybe you're blowing something that could affect your playoff position.
I think it could be. I think the other side of that argument would be, when we're pitching well and playing good defense and the offense is clicking, there's room to kind of absorb some slumps or underperformance for in stretches by others, versus the expectation that any individual is going to be able to turn the season around.
Craig, how do you have that take while also balancing Christian Campbell expecting to be at first base this weekend? Are you worried about what that could do to him?
We're always thinking through what the implications may be of those types of moves, and losing Tristan for the season was a huge blow, and we've got to figure out a way to put the pieces together and give ourselves the best chance of winning. And we feel like Christian is someone who's going to be able to handle that. But we also, have tried to play this transition out over enough time for him to get some confidence over there. And, we'll try to ease him into that role, and we're going to have to evaluate it on the fly. Trying to do this in season is not ideal, but this is the hand that we have.
When it comes to execution or lack thereof, we debate all the time, is it predominantly on the players or is it on the manager of the ball club? And we were talking earlier about a dubious statistic currently, and I'm going to go all analytics on you here if that's okay, but with runners in scoring position, this team is currently .036 average-wise. Is that just the players aren't hitting the baseball, aren't able to hit the baseball, aren't able to advance the runner, or is that on the manager of this ball club?
I think to some degree it's on all of us. And it's really difficult to determine, what is kind of an approach, what is execution, what is, kind of just reaching your true talent level. I think what we have talked about for the last month or so is the ability to kind of tease out, what your approach is and what you're trying to accomplish before you get to two strikes and what you're trying to do with two strikes. And, situational gameplay is a huge component in scoring runs. And, I do think we're constantly working through what objectives are in different situations. And we have not been efficient in getting runs across the board, especially, our, as you pointed out, our averages with runners in scoring position. And so I think it's time to contemplate some different strategies in terms of being a little bit more aggressive in just trying to get runs across the board, maybe at the expense of the ability to have a big inning, right, and play a little bit more small ball and take advantage of the athleticism that we have. And then, when you zoom out, our offense overall looks okay because we've had a handful of outbursts that's maybe skewing the overall look. So, you could say we're top 10 in terms of runs scored and OPS, but we're not scoring runs in high leverage situations. And as a result, we're not winning enough games.
Is the reason that Roman Anthony isn't here, I know you noted that the situation, he needs to check off all these boxes, but if he comes up and struggles and has some sort of a mental issue with the move to the big leagues, that falls on your lap, whereas if he takes his time and waits a little bit longer, then there's less risk of you feeling heat for rushing him up here. Because I watch this team, I can't imagine that Alex Cora is sitting back saying, take your time, Roman. This team is almost on life support when it comes to the division. It defies logic to most people observing this team that Roman Anthony is not there in Atlanta this weekend.
I think the most direct way to answer that question is the the perception or responsibility or accountability that I would feel if Roman struggles is not a factor in making this decision. This isn't about trying to protect me in any way. This is about trying to balance multiple interests, do right by our team and do right by Roman.
Does the team want him? Have you heard from people in the organization, whether it's the manager or players, that, we could really use the help?
I think everyone's aware of what he's doing in AAA. But at the same time, I think if any of us is looking, if anyone on the team is looking at players outside of the team, then that focus is misguided, right? I think we need to, we want the players on the team, we want the staff to be thinking about how we maximize the 26 guys that are currently on the roster, and it's my job to think about the composition of that roster.
Well, Wiggy had a solution for fixing everything this week, if you'd like to hear it.
I
would love to.
Yeah, I have multiple solutions.
Well, it comes to the infield.
Yeah,
Wiggy would like you to instruct Alex to play the infield when there's two outs at all points going forward.
The game you lost against Milwaukee, you gave up that third run. The bleeder. The squib down the third baseline where if Meyer has his toes on the grass, I think he's able to make that play. So I would have my infield in that situation. Granted, I know it's
not conventional.
It's not conventional, but it is aggressive.
Yeah, no, and look, when you think about unconventional solutions, I am all for those. I don't know that a sample size of one batted ball is necessarily how we want to make decisions, but.
He was very confident.
Well,
very confident.
It sounded good.